After we got married, John canceled our wedding party at the last minute, citing work as the reason. I was feeling uneasy about it when I got a call from Iris. She said John's name was on the list of clients getting married today. Skeptical, I rushed over and was shocked to see John exchanging vows with some unknown woman in the chapel. They moved to the main building to hold the reception. I overheard their conversation through a slightly open door of the waiting room. Man, I wonder if it was okay to cancel the party with Emily. Showing off a bride like that old hag would probably get us booed by the guests. Come on, John, you married her because you love her, right? No way. She's just a tasteless country bumpkin. The only one I love is Isabella. Furious, I immediately called my father. Soon after, he arrived with our relatives, and we stormed into the reception. Hurry up! It's already started! You better brace yourselves. I'm going to turn your blissful world upside down soon. I'm Emily, a 42-year-old. I recently married John and now I'm working full-time while managing the household. I lost my mother to illness when I was young, so my father, who runs a real estate business, raised me with great care. I grew up adored by relatives we'd meet at family events. Upon graduating from college, I moved to the city and started living alone, thinking I'd become too dependent if I stayed with my father forever. However, our home is just an hour's drive away, so I visit easily during long weekends. My father is past his 60s, and I wanted to get married to give him some peace of mind. That's when I met John, who had come from the headquarters to help with work. John, a native of this town, had a stylish and sophisticated air about him. He was smart in his actions, good at his job, and fun to talk to. I was attracted to him and thrilled when he said, "I want to date you with the intention of getting married." So, we started dating. Eventually, he proposed to me, and I happily accepted the engagement ring. My father was overjoyed when I told him over the phone. It was then decided to introduce John to my father. Little did I know of the turmoil that was to come. My father greeted John with a big smile. "Welcome. You're just as wonderful as my daughter said." "Thank you." My father, warm and personable, and John, lively and a great conversationalist. I was relieved to see the two of them getting along, chatting enthusiastically about sports. I was glad they were getting along so well. But then, leaving my house in a happy mood and heading back to the city, I was taken aback by John's words as he looked out the window. "Man, there's really nothing around here. Can't believe you lived in such a place." Driving, I was momentarily at a loss for words. Sure, around here, it's mostly fruit orchards and houses. It's a boring view compared to the city where John grew up. But I didn't like him talking like that. I swallowed my complaint and forced a smile. "It's peaceful scenery. The starry sky is beautiful here, and it's nice and quiet. Just cross the river and there's supermarkets and stores. Ugh, I thought I smelled something. There were cows just back there. The smell might stick to my clothes. Gotta wash them as soon as we get home." John continued in a mocking tone. "Emily's place was unnecessarily large, huh? A single-story house, totally countryside vibe. See, where I'm from in the city, we have small parking and yards. I'm envious. Being from the city makes you better?" I felt disgruntled but didn't want to start a fight so early in our marriage. Just typical city folk thoughts. I told myself that and tried to suppress my irritation. A month later, we were invited to John's parents' house. As I heard, it was tucked in a corner of the city, with buildings packed tightly together. John's parents, stylish as expected, gave off a cold vibe, similar to their stylish 3-story house. It was uncomfortable how they scrutinized me, assessing my appearance. Hearing about my hometown from John, my mother-in-law sneered. "Your mother passed away from an illness? No parents together, huh? Well, it's better than them being divorced." So, they would have opposed the marriage if my parents were divorced? An outdated notion that displeased me. "Emily's from a really rural area, but she's a big landowner. Her dad runs a real estate company." At John's words, my in-laws leaned in with interest. "Landowner? Running a company? The whole neighborhood is practically Emily's family land." "Oh, that's impressive." My in-laws exchanged looks and smirked. "Take good care of John, Emily." "Yes, of course." Their sudden friendliness was met with my polite, yet strained smile. On the way home, John, gripping the steering wheel, puffed up his chest. My dad works at the big company, M Motors, at the headquarters as a manager. And mom's a homemaker. No need for her to work outside. That's impressive. I was a bit disappointed seeing John talk about my family's land as if it were his own achievement. He seemed childish. But that didn't mean my love for him had faded. After dinner with both families, we got married. A chapel or a garden at a prestigious hotel, both options offering an elegant ceremony. Having trouble narrowing down the options, I decided to take my time looking for the perfect venue. John was understanding, so I took my time to research and think things over, gathering information from the internet and conversations with married friends. However, when I finally leaned towards a garden and brought it up to John, he vehemently opposed it. I want a chapel. A ceremony in the chapel and the reception in the main building. But you said before that you'd leave it all up to me, right? Well, that's... I changed my mind after talking to some friends. John's response was oddly hesitant. Confused, I watched a promotional video on his phone. Look at this place, isn't it great? A hall adorned with colorful flowers, where the bride and groom smiled happily. It is lovely, but... Great, it's settled then. Let's go with this one. John quickly called the venue and arranged a viewing. At the venue viewing we attended together, John listened intently to the discussions about the ceremony and reception, asking the staff detailed questions. I was both surprised and filled with happiness at his earnest involvement. It was surprising to see him so enthusiastic, considering he usually doesn't show much interest in events like this. I felt warm inside, thinking he was looking forward to our wedding party. But his enthusiasm waned after the venue visit. When it came to choosing the dress, wedding rings, and planning the party, he started dragging his feet, citing his busy work schedule. Choose the dress you like, Emily. Everything looks good on you. His indifferent attitude disappointed me. It's not about that, John. I want you to see it. You always buy stylish clothes, right? I rely on your good taste. Thanks, but I want to be surprised on the day. It's normal for the husband to come along, you know? John got annoyed at my words. Can't help it, I have business trips on weekends. Complaint to my boss, not me. His mood soured whenever I mentioned his busyness. I've already sorted the guest list and sent out the invites, isn't that enough? I ordered the rings we saw on my phone. We'll pick them up soon. His words, seemingly spoken out of obligation, saddened me, but I didn't want to argue further. Make sure you come to the next meeting. We have to choose gifts for the guests together. I know. I'll definitely be there next time. John replied grudgingly, his face clouded with irritation. I grew anxious. True to form, he broke his promise again. He said he'd come after work on the day of our meeting, but he was nowhere to be seen when the time came. My calls went unanswered, my messages unread. 15 minutes past our appointment time and still no sign of him. I apologized to the female staff member. Sorry, I can't get in touch with my husband, so please proceed with the meeting. All right. You're Emily, right? The staff asked timidly, addressing me by my first name. Yes, that's me. Do you remember me? I'm John's cousin, Iris. We met at the party, remember? Oh, Iris! Recalling my memories, I raised my voice. Come to think of it, I attended a party with John. We arrived early, but John left me alone, feeling tense among strangers, and went off to chat with his cousins. Then, Iris, who was around my age, approached me with a smile, alone as I was. It was a relief to be talked to by her, amidst all of John's relatives. Iris, you work here, huh? Yes, I do. I'm so happy you're having your ceremony with us. Iris's friendly smile suddenly turned serious. Is John really that busy with work? Back when we were dating, it wasn't like this. Work is important, but honestly, I wish he'd prioritize our relationship a bit more. Iris comforted me as I spoke in a lowered voice. It's a big event, after all. I'll give him a piece of my mind next time I see him. Thank you. I felt a bit better as Iris clenched her fist in support. When I got home, John was lounging on the sofa, grinning at his phone. He didn't even say welcome back as I entered the living room. Don't you have something to say to me? I asked angrily, standing in front of him. John finally looked up. Sorry. I was supposed to finish in the morning, but it turned into overtime. Then at least let me know. Besides, it's not a busy season at work, is it? John bristled at my question. Look, my department at the headquarters is busy, unlike where you work. A country girl like you wouldn't understand. Where I come from has nothing to do with it. Honestly, I don't even want to have a party. It's just a hassle. I was speechless. So that's how John felt about our wedding party, our first step towards our future together. Fine, I'll decide everything myself from now on. Just don't complain, I retorted, tears spilling over. Can I really make it work with John? He was taken aback as I started to cry. Sorry, I went too far. I'm tired from work and all the prep. I promise I'll be at the remaining 2 meetings. John said hurriedly, seeming panicked. Really? Can I trust you? Yes. If work comes up, I'll reschedule or ask a colleague to cover for me. And true to his word, John attended the remaining meetings with me. However, another unsettling event occurred. A month before the wedding party, John suddenly wanted to postpone it. When I asked him why, he said it was due to work reasons. Sorry. There was a defect in a product because of a subordinate's mistake. I have to go on a business trip to a branch office that day. I couldn't hold back my anger. Come on, can't someone else go? It's my responsibility for my subordinate's mistake. I have to apologize in person. I understood his words as a working professional. I felt like crying, but resigned myself to not blaming John and asked him further. How long will it be postponed? Until the aftermath is settled. Once things calm down, we'll book again. Of course, I'll explain to guests. I held back my complaints. I just wanted the party to be a priority. All right, then please do that. I sighed and agreed. A while later, the day before our original reservation arrived. John left on his business trip as planned. As I was getting ready to go out, my phone rang. It was Iris. I was shocked by what she told me. What? Just see for yourself. I rushed out of the house and drove to the venue. At the entrance of the main building, I checked the names of the couples getting married. It's true. Groom, John. The board listed John and an unfamiliar woman's name. Especially since today was supposed to be the eve of our wedding party. Feeling dizzy, I headed towards the chapel on the north side of the main building. With a prayerful heart, I pushed open the heavy doors and was struck with shock. John, in a white tuxedo, stood facing a woman in a dress, in front of a pastor. As John lifted her veil for a vow kiss, I felt like collapsing. Though stunned, watching the happy couple, a fierce anger rose within me. All his excuses of being busy, all the postponed meetings, it was all for her. They then walked out of the church, stepping on petals thrown by guests, heading towards the main building. The guests seemed to be in their 30s and 40s. It appeared John and Isabella had invited only friends, excluding bosses and family. I followed behind the guests to the main building. Unable to contain my anger, I was waiting to confront John. As a staff member left the room, I decided to barge in. But then, I heard their conversation through the slightly opened door. Thinking it could be useful later, I discreetly placed my phone set to record near the door. A young bride is definitely better. Man, I wonder if it was okay to cancel the party with Emily. Showing off a bride like that old hag would probably get us booed by the guests. John, that's terrible. Didn't you marry her because you loved her? No way. She's just a tasteless country girl, practically a charity. The only one I love is Isabella. Say more. Their vulgar laughter made my blood boil. My fists clenched so hard they felt like breaking. Unforgivable. Get ready. I'll soon bring your blissful world crashing down to hell. Completely enraged, I moved to a corner of the hallway to calm myself. Coincidentally, my father and relatives were nearby. I sent the recording of John and Isabella's conversation to my father and saw his furious reaction. Next, I called someone else, and they too couldn't hide their surprise. While I was making these arrangements, the hallways started getting noisy. It seemed like the reception was about to start. I ended the call and headed towards the reception hall. After waiting outside for a bit, my father showed up as promised, bringing a large group with him. We nodded to each other and pushed open the doors to the reception hall. To the future of the couple and the prosperity of both families, cheers! Cheers! Amidst the lively mood, I stormed into the venue with my father and relatives. We're in a hurry, it's already started. Wait, what's going on? The attendees started murmuring in confusion. Excuse me, who are you? You're not one of the invited guests. Could you please leave? I smiled at the puzzled MC. Who am I? I'm John's wife. John and Isabella on the stage froze. Apparently, they hadn't informed the guests that John was already married. How strange. Why is my husband marrying an unknown woman? Are you John's mistress? I called out to Isabella with a full smile. My husband always takes good care of you. Since you're not surprised to see me, you knew he was married, right? So, you're an accomplice. No, this is, John fell silent with a bitter face, and Isabella stammered as the crowd buzzed. Wait, what's happening? John isn't single? Bigamy is not okay. This is ridiculous. I'm leaving. Hey, everyone. Everyone, please come back. This is ridiculous. I'm leaving too. I practiced to liven up the party, and it was all a waste of time. Even the MC put the microphone back on its stand and left with the other guests, angry and disappointed. John, left with only my father and relatives in the venue, yelled at me. Emily! You've ruined a perfectly good party. What are you going to do about it? Holding back an angry relative, I spoke to John. So, John, you had the means to hold another wedding? Isabella looked at me with scorn. What are you talking about? John's a manager, he earns a lot. Don't you know that, being his wife? Isabella, with a mocking smile, turned an innocent grin towards John. John, you went all out to plan a lovely plan for me, right? The hotel room for tonight is a top-floor suite. Oh, yeah. John looked guilty as he avoided Isabella's gaze. I laughed softly and informed Isabella. Oh, you didn't know? Know what? He's drowning in debt. I explained calmly. I accidentally opened the credit card bill that arrived the other day. The amount due on the revolving credit was shockingly high. Isabella looked at John in disbelief. John had a grimace on his face, turning away from Isabella. He earns a lot, but he spends more than his income on clothes, bags, watches. Always buying the latest high-end brands. He's just showing off. When I showed Isabella the copy of the credit card statement I had prepared, she turned pale. No way, I didn't know about this. Really? Even as his mistress, you didn't know? I threw her own words back at her, and Isabella clicked her tongue, glaring at John. Why didn't you tell me? I have a repayment plan. I won't let Isabella suffer. John retorted. I was planning to divorce Emily after making her pay my debts, and then remarry Isabella. I never intended to have a wedding party with you. John ranted at me. I married a tacky country girl like you for the money, but I regret it now. Just living with you makes me feel like a country bumpkin. So, will your wife pay off your debts? No way I will. I dismissed the idea, and Isabella spoke to John in a coquettish tone. John, you did finalize the contract for the condo we're moving into, right? The view from the 30th floor must be amazing. You remember our promise to live together after our honeymoon in Europe, right? I sighed and looked back and forth between Isabella and John. John had been acting guilty and avoiding Isabella's gaze since earlier. Looks like you haven't even signed the contract for the condo, right? What? You're probably going to say the rooms were all booked to delay moving in together, right? You don't have the money. Or you'll ask Isabella to pay and then never reimburse her. That's not true. I plan to pay eventually. Eventually, huh? Isabella's eyes narrowed. Well, it's fine. I don't mind if you don't pay me back right away. I'm not in trouble. Yeah, right. Isabella is from a rich family, so she has plenty of leeway. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. John was annoyed by my laughter. Why are you laughing? John, you thought Isabella was from a wealthy family, right? Sure, she might have money to spend freely if her husband is working abroad. John's eyes widened. I informed John with a hint of pity. Didn't you know? As a receptionist at a trading company, you might not get such information. After blinking a few times, John turned back to Isabella. Isabella has a husband? No way. She said she was divorced and now single. Right, Isabella? Isabella didn't answer, instead looking away. I pulled out some documents and photos from my bag and presented them to John. After canceling our wedding party, I hired a private investigator to look into your affairs. What? Don't do things like that on your own. The one who cheated has no right to say that. It's my salary, so you have no say in it. I snapped back, and John fell silent, looking displeased. I was considering forgiving you, depending on your behavior. But I didn't expect you to go as far as having a wedding with your mistress. I threw a sharp glance at Isabella. I also had Isabella investigated. And look what I found. You wouldn't call this man her brother or friend, would you? In the photo, Isabella was smiling affectionately at a tall, handsome man in front of an elegant mansion. The man, with a suitcase at his feet, seemed to be leaving for a business trip. The next photo showed the same man in the driver's seat of a car, with Isabella getting out. The location was their home's shuttered garage. The third photo was even more decisive. Isabella was walking down a beautifully illuminated street, holding hands with the man, looking cheerful. John's eyes bulged and he trembled when he saw the photos. Isabella, who is this guy? He's my cousin's brother. You only have female cousins. Did I say that? Isabella snorted. Yes, that's my husband. Handsome, isn't he? Ignoring John's gaping mouth, Isabella continued proudly. My husband is always abroad for work and I get bored. So I thought I'd have some fun with a moderately good-looking man. Moderately? Yes. You can't tell from the photos, but in person, he's as handsome as a top star. I don't want to be seen with ugly men. They have to compliment me. John was stunned, but Isabella kept talking. Then John appeared. I thought he was okay for my standards. What about you marrying me after my divorce? John looked like he was about to cry. What? No way. John's company is famous domestically, but it's nothing compared to international companies. John's salary is half of my husband's. It's like a dream, right? Isabella laughed condescendingly. I just went along today because John wanted to play wedding. Playing wedding? I was serious about it. As a married man? That's ridiculous. Isabella sharply dismissed him. The wedding at my in-laws was in a traditional family with a modest ceremony, and it was boring. Then John here suggested a chapel wedding, so I went along. It was fun, like filming a drama. After a satisfied smile, Isabella pouted. It felt great being like a heroine, but having it ruined by a wife is so lame. I'm bored now, let's break up. Wait, Isabella! Don't contact me anymore. Bye. Please, don't leave me! John, on the verge of tears, was left behind as Isabella swirled the skirt of her dress and left the venue. My father and relatives looked at John, kneeling and devastated on the stage, with disdain. What a disgraceful man. Canceling a wedding party with his wife to marry another woman, I've never heard of such a thing. Such dishonesty. Hurting Emily, this liar. Even as John faced a barrage of criticism from my relatives, he showed no sign of remorse. Instead, he glared at me, my father, and relatives, and yelled. Shut up! Emily, did you have your dad and relatives wait nearby just to make a fool of me? You're twisted. Today is my mother's death anniversary. That's why the relatives were together. We had a meal at a nearby restaurant. John looked bewildered. I told you the other day, remember? Oh, did I hear that? You were too preoccupied with Isabella, you must have forgotten. John fell silent with a sulky face as I shot a sarcastic remark at him. I was supposed to attend the memorial too. I was getting ready to leave when your cousin Iris, who works here, told me someone with the same name as you was getting married today. Iris? She works here? Yes. So I called my dad. I'm going to check it out. If it's true, I'll have Dad and my uncles come to the venue, I told him. So, are you satisfied now? Ruining my big day. As I was about to answer, the sound of many footsteps approached. John turned and saw a group of people entering the hall, his face a mix of shock and fear. Department manager! The department manager, seeing John and me, looked confused. Emily told me about John's wedding party, so I rushed over with my colleagues. But what is all this about? Well, you see. When John used to work at our company, the department manager also visited my department, so we knew each other. Because of this connection, John and I had asked the department manager to come to our party. That's what I told you. John's party was supposed to be postponed, and no new date had been set. The department manager's colleagues frowned. The younger man in the back, crossing his arms, nodded in agreement. It was said to be due to Emily's circumstances, so the date was still on hold. So I was being blamed. Yes. But then we heard from the department manager, it seems there was a mistake about the date. It is today, so we hurried over. I'm sorry for the sudden call and inconvenience. I apologized to the manager and his colleagues. There won't be a party with this man anymore. Of course not. John retorted sharply. I was a fool to marry someone like you. You've embarrassed me. That's my line, John. The department manager spoke sternly to John. You've disgraced me as your matchmaker. What? No, I didn't mean to. You were talented and respected by your juniors. I had high expectations, but you've disappointed me. The department manager looked coldly at John. I'll report this to the president. Forget about any promotion. What? Just for an affair? John's casual remark drew looks of disgust from his younger colleagues. John, marrying a mistress is not normal. John, so that's who you are. The team leader position will be reassigned too, right? We should ask someone else to take over. Agreed. The department manager and his colleagues left. Am I being removed from the project? No way. John collapsed on the stage, crying as my relatives voiced their criticism. You reap what you sow. I knew you looked down on Emily and me as country folks, but I thought you were serious about work. I was wrong. Disappointing. My usually gentle father, filled with anger, told John off, and John hung his head in embarrassment. The next day at work, John was like a person walking on pins and needles. John is ungrateful. Despite asking the department manager to be a matchmaker, he married his mistress and was planning to divorce his wife. Such talk spread throughout the company and even reached our clients. John, who had been top in his department, lost the trust of his bosses, colleagues, and clients, tumbling down from his career path in an instant. Unable to bear the cold stares from everyone, John left the company before being transferred to a regional branch. His convenient plan of deceiving me to pay his debts, then divorcing me and remarrying Isabella. Such a convenient plan being ruined, it seems John was deeply upset. He went crying to his parents' home, but his in-laws, informed by Iris about the cause of the divorce, were furious. What a disgraceful thing you've done. We're being talked about by all our relatives. Marrying your mistress is not something a sane person does. We're cutting ties with you. Don't contact us ever again. He was disowned by his own family. His huge fashion debts, the cancellation fee for our wedding party, compensation to the venue for the disturbance with Isabella's party, and alimony to me. John ended up having to pay off all these debts himself, debts that he had accumulated in an attempt to make a lump sum repayment. He attempted to find a full-time job using his career experience, but was turned down due to his age, then ended up only getting a part-time job. To pay off this enormous amount, he had to juggle multiple part-time jobs, working from early morning till late at night, seemingly having no time to even care about his appearance. The last time I saw him on the street, he was gaunt with stubble and noticeable white hair, hardly recognizable. As for Isabella, she caught cheating by her husband, was divorced and kicked out of the condo. She is now desperately working every day to make ends meet. Divorcing within a year of marriage. I initially blamed myself for that, however, my colleagues were all kind and didn't blame me. Thanks to them, I could focus on work again after a while. Being entrusted with training new employees and selected for the project development team, I've been advancing my career and am now living a fulfilling life. By chance, or perhaps ironically, Iris and I became close friends because of this incident. We occasionally enjoy having coffee together or going on trips, which has become one of my pleasures. I think divorcing a man who constantly lies was the right decision. I'm determined not to be deceived by appearances or atmosphere in the future, to cultivate better judgment in people, and to grow personally.